The transfer portal just opened up, and we've already seen a number of pretty big-name quarterbacks announce their decision to transfer. The way college football has changed over the last few years, we're going to be seeing more and more of this every season. I'm sure in the coming weeks, there are going to be a number of other big names that'll enter the portal, but here are just a few of the quarterbacks who have put their name in the transfer portal over the weekend. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to the channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. Probably the biggest name to enter at this point has been Clemson quarterback Uiagalelei. He was benched in favor of Cade Klubnik during the ACC title game. Well, considering Klubnik looked fantastic and was named the starting quarterback moving forward following the game, this move just made the most sense. This is quite the downfall for Uiagalelei, who was one of the top players of the 2020 class. In limited action in 2020, he looked like he'd be the next great quarterback to come out of Clemson, but things just took a complete 180 following that season. In 2021, he completed only 55% of his passes while throwing for 2,200 yards with only 9 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He had a much better season in 2022 as he threw for 2,500 yards with 22 passing touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. Still though, there were numerous occasions in which he just didn't look like a very good quarterback at all. A lot of people were calling for Klubnik to become the starter, and in the ACC title game, he finally showed what he was capable of. And it turns out that's all it took for him to be named the starting quarterback moving forward. So Uiagalelei will enter the transfer portal, and it'll be really interesting to see where he ends up next season. I mean, this is a guy where just a couple years ago, we were expecting him to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted in this upcoming draft class. Now, his time at Clemson is done, and he has to find a new starting job somewhere else. This next one was pretty surprising as NC State quarterback Devin Leary entered the transfer portal. Entering the 2022 season, I actually had Leary as a Heisman dark horse, but the season just didn't go as planned for him. During his time at NC State, he threw for just under 7,000 yards with 62 passing touchdowns. In 2021, he emerged as one of the top quarterbacks in the entire country. He threw for 3,400 yards with 35 passing touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. But his 2022 season was cut short when he tore his right pec early in October. Up until that point, Leary had thrown for over 1,200 yards with 11 passing touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Honestly, when looking at all the quarterbacks that are going to be in the transfer portal this offseason, Devin Leary might be the best. It looks like Kedon Slovis is going to be at his 3rd program in 3 years as he's going to be leaving Pitt. After a solid career with USC, Kedon Slovis entered the transfer portal last offseason, and he replaced Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh. A lot of people, myself included, thought that Slovis was going to have a phenomenal year for the Panthers and put up some really good numbers. But things just didn't go that way in 2022. In 11 games, Slovis completed a career low 58% of his passes. He threw for 2,400 yards with only 10 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. We've seen the potential from Slovis as he threw for 3,500 yards with 30 passing touchdowns as a freshman back in 2019. But since then, he just hasn't been able to get back on track. Maybe at a new program, he'll finally be able to recapture what he did in 2019. Well, with Kedon Slovis leaving Pitt, they actually have already brought in another transfer quarterback, and it's a pretty good one. Former Boston College quarterback Phil Jurkovec is coming to Pittsburgh. This move actually makes sense as he'll be reuniting with offensive coordinator Frank Cignetti, who was the former offensive coordinator at Boston College when Jurkovec was there. Jurkovec is another quarterback that has shown a lot of potential. Back in 2020 with Boston College, he threw for over 2,500 yards with 17 passing touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. But he's been really limited over the last 2 seasons as injuries have cost him about half of his games. Since the start of 2021, he's only appeared in 14 games, and he missed over a month this season with a number of injuries. With Texas being pretty set at the quarterback position for a number of years, backup quarterback Hudson Card entered the transfer portal. Overall, Card played in 22 games over parts of 3 seasons with the Longhorns, and he also made 5 starts. During his time with Texas, he completed 66% of his passes for 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions. His biggest moment of the 2022 season was when he came in for Quinn Ewers against Alabama. Card completed 14 of 22 passes for 160 yards and almost pulled off the upset victory. He led Texas to wins over UTSA and West Virginia while Ewers was out. Against West Virginia, he threw for over 300 yards with 3 touchdowns. Although Although it seems like Card's been around for a while, he still has 3 seasons of eligibility remaining. So wherever he goes, he might be there for at least a couple of seasons. Another quarterback entering the portal is Wisconsin quarterback Graham Mertz. Mertz has been the quarterback at Wisconsin for quite some time, as he started 32 games over the past 3 seasons with the Badgers. Personally, I've never thought Mertz was that good of a quarterback, and his numbers have backed it up. Over the last 3 seasons as Wisconsin's starting quarterback, Mertz has completed 59% of his passes for 5,400 yards. He's thrown 38 touchdown passes with 26 interceptions. This season was actually a career best for Mertz, as he had career highs in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and quarterback rating. On the ground, he's also added 8 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons as well. With Luke Fickell coming in as Wisconsin's new head coach, it looks like the Badgers are going to be going in a completely different direction. A very interesting name to keep an eye on is Western Kentucky quarterback Austin Reed. Reed was one of the better players in the entire FBS this season. He ranked 2nd in the country in passing yards with over 4,200, and he was also 2nd in touchdown passes with 36 and 2nd in completions with 353. It's been quite the journey for Reed, as he originally started with Southern Illinois. He then transferred to West Florida and actually won a Division II title in 2019 after throwing for over 4,000 yards with 40 passing touchdowns. He then transferred to Western Kentucky, where he completely lit up the stat sheet just like Bailey Zappi did last season with Western Kentucky. I get that he plays in a really quarterback-friendly offense, but not every quarterback can throw for over 4,000 yards in a season, especially at the FBS level. So like I mentioned, he's definitely a name to keep an eye on in regards to the transfer portal. We'll wrap up this video with Auburn quarterback Zach Calzada, who once again is going to be back in the transfer portal. He came over from Texas A&M last season, but he didn't appear in a single game for Auburn this year. He entered the season as the number 3 option on the depth chart behind TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford. Then midway through the season, Calzada underwent season-ending shoulder surgery. Back in 2021 for Texas A&M, Calzada started 10 games for the Aggies. He threw for 2,200 yards with 17 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. When he transferred last offseason, many people assumed that he would be the starting quarterback, but the fact that he didn't even see a single snap is something that none of us saw coming. So he's back in the transfer portal and is looking to be at his 3rd school in the last 3 years. Actually, we have one more quarterback to talk about, as literally when I was finishing editing this video, I got a notification that Oklahoma State quarterback Spencer Sanders will be entering the portal as well. Now this is certainly a surprise, as Sanders is one of the better quarterbacks in Oklahoma State history. In his past 4 seasons as the starting quarterback, he's thrown for 9,500 yards with 67 passing touchdowns. He's also rushed for 2,000 yards with 18 touchdowns on the ground as well. After things got off to a strong start for him this season, things kind of took a step back. He ended up completing only 57% of his passes, a career worst. He threw for 2,600 yards with 17 passing touchdowns, numbers that are down from his 2021 campaign. Regardless of who enters the transfer portal the rest of the offseason, Spencer Sanders will have arguably the most experience out of any of those names. So wherever he goes, that team's going to be getting a veteran quarterback who has put up some really good numbers over the last 4 seasons. Well, those are just a number of the starting quarterbacks that have entered the transfer portal in the last few days. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm sure we're going to see a number more enter the portal in the coming weeks. Out of all the quarterbacks I talked about today, which one are you most intrigued by to see where they end up in 2023? If your school needs a starting quarterback, which one of the names I talked about today are you hoping they go after? Whoever they are, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.